Hey everybody, this is John for MTG Nexus Red, coming at you with a little bit of a different one. This one we're taking a look at a somewhat controversial / sloppily played game 1 against Mono Black Scam, Black Necro, whatever you wish to call it. A couple comments in what will have been my most current video commented that some of the play lines were not the best, and so I figured taking a look at what we're playing with and kind of taking a look at thoughts turn by turn might give a better idea of whether some plays were just bad or maybe just a little bit misunderstood from perception of the viewers. So definitely there's probably some mistakes in this game, but there also might be some lines or some things that may not be readily available or just outright wrong, as people have commented on some things, not realizing that certain information was a little bit different than was known. Alright, so the deck we're playing with is this a little bit different take on Burn with Amped Raptor and Arena of Glory in the deck, as opposed to playing Riftbolt and Skewer the Critics. Other than that, we're largely playing almost traditional modern Burn, Goblin Guide, Swift Spear, Eidolon, 4 Lava Spike, 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Searing Blaze, 4 Boros Charm, 4 Skullcrack. Nothing terribly fancy, but some notable things left out: Lightning Helix, Flame Rift, etc. And in addition to Riftbolt and Skewer the Critics, which you really can't reliably cast with Amped Raptor. This was really the card we're testing in this thing, along with Arena of Glory to give it an Eidolon of the Great Rebel Haste. Another supplemental card: Play with Fire. Not the best 1-drop, obviously, but I thought it was the one with the highest upside. There was one mentioned from the Lord of the Rings set that we might try in one of the future videos testing this deck. But basically it replaces the Scry one with the Ring Temp Shoe, which, while an interesting mechanic, really only becomes powerful when you either have a creature on the battlefield or if you draw multiples of said spell and are able to kind of progress the Ring Temp Shoe. But that's just kind of the basic deck. Another thing is 1 Cut Inspiring Vantage to make room for the Arena of Glory, 2 Elegant Parlor, 2 Sacred Founder, and 2 Basic Mountain, bunch of fetches, 4 Sunbaked Canyons. So that's kind of the deck we're dealing with. That said, let's get into the gameplay and kind of take a look at the play lines that I took in this game. Alright, the game in question is game 1 against Chad Wallens, so no sideboards. We are on the play. And first thing, taking a look at this hand, obviously you could argue keeping a 1-lander, but especially on the draw, it's a bit of a risk. On the play, it's even more of a risk. We do have 4 1-drops, but I've been trying to be more disciplined, at least on 7, and just mulliganing the 7-card hand that only has 1 land. So we end up mulliganing. This hand is 1 land more than I ideally like in my opening hand, but it's reasonable enough, gives us a chance to test Amped Raptor. Searing Blaze is reasonable a lot of spots, so I think keep his hand and put back one of the Sunbaked Canyons. And I agree with my past self. So the opponent also mulliganed to 6. Basically, we're going to play through this turn. We play Swift Spear and attack. Our opponent then plays Fatal Push and passes. I play Amped Raptor onto an empty battlefield. Obviously, this is a bit of a risk. We hit like Searing Blaze, but other than that, I don't really think there's any real reason to hold this back, especially since we're not going to get much value from Searing Blaze. And against Hive of the Eye Tyrant, obviously you're probably against some type of black mid-range deck. There's not always guaranteed a creature you're going to see on the first turn cycle or 2. So play Amped Raptor, find Eidolon, pretty reasonable hit overall. Nothing too fancy or controversial so far. Second turn, opponent plays that. They cast Stalactite Stalker, which is kind of indicative of a slightly more aggressive bent of Rakdos. I have seen this pop up from time to time, but it's really kind of a garbage card overall. We play the land, so we can go ahead and Searing Blaze, Stalactite Stalker, get in for decent amount of damage here, put our opponent to 13 and then to 9. Pretty standard thoroughfare for Burn so far. Holding a Bolt so I can interact with whatever opponent does. Alright, so opponent plays Gyru's Sanitarium, which is a little bit weird, but when you consider cards like Shouldered and Bowmasters. It's not terrible for them, but it is a little awkward, and it makes this game kind of awkward. Orcish Bowmaster is normally a card that Burn doesn't particularly care about. Sure, Bowmasters can ping something, trade for a Goblin guy with its Orc army, but generally opponent doesn't get a whole lot of value out of it. This time, because of Amped Raptor's 1 toughness, it does get some decent value. And then they evoke a Grief. And I think this is where some people, or at least one person in the comments, commented that Thoughtseize was a known card in their hand. No, it wasn't. This was a pitch card from this Grief. But that said, opponent is going to take a card. We go ahead and bolt in response, put them to 4. Thought process behind bolting them as opposed to Orcish Bowmasters or the Orc army. I think the only realistic card we could have potentially targeted was this Bowmasters, besides our opponent's face, and might have been correct in light of this setup with Gyroot Sanitarium. But I also didn't think the game would end up going anywhere near as long as I did, and I just wanted to put my opponent as low a life total as possible. In hindsight, it might have been correct to deal with this Bowmasters to kind of open up attacking a little bit more. But we draw land, which I played here, which might not have been the correct thing. My thought process here was to play the land, crack it for Elegant Parlor, and scry a card to the top. Now this opens up 2 problems. Now, number 1, it doesn't give us any insulation against our opponent, Gyroot Sanitarium, whatever card we scry at the top. And number 2, really doesn't give away any, gives away information about what our hand was without our opponent really, needing to think too much. So 2 strikes beam against playing this fetch land here. This was the first of several questionable decisions, I'll say at least. Opponent plays another Eye of the High Tyrant. They do nothing. We go ahead and fetch here with the aforementioned Elegant Parlor. Scry Play with Fire to the top. My opponent immediately activates Gyroot Sanitarium. I thought about cracking this Sunbaked Canyon to draw another card, to draw a card, and then we'd be able to dome our opponent. The problem with that is we'd be getting our Eidolon killed here, which would, conceivably we could hit runner and easily kill them, but I choose not to, which, a bit of a mistake. Opponent pings here, which I thought was weird. I guess only in sight of trying to discourage me from cracking the Sunbaked Canyon here. So, Lava Spike, not really a whole lot to think about here. We go ahead and Lava Spike them, put them to 1. My opponent does the thing, or we did the thing past the turn. Now, we could have tried to spike into something here, but just didn't feel it was worth it. My opponent goes to tap some mana here and then thinks better of it. They go ahead and attack. We obviously don't block because, we don't want them to be able to cast anything. Now, this is where things get a little awkward. I do believe one of the discussions was related to this Orcish Bowmasters being the only blocker available, and I should have been attacking here. The problem is our opponent also has Hive the Eye Tyrant up, so there is actually no profitable attack here, hence why we go for Amped Raptor, although it is debatable whether I should have cast the spell that we hit off of it, because we know our opponent's going to be able to ping this down pretty easily, so it really doesn't do a whole lot. We hit an Eidolon, cast the Eidolon going to 6. Our opponent's already locked out of the game, so maybe there was no reason to cast that here. Opponent just activates Gyre Reach, pings down the Amped Raptor. Now we ourselves could actually be locked out of the game at this point if my opponent had pinged us instead of this Eidolon. So there were some decisions on both sides that really could have swung the game either way. They would have pinged us here, would have been locked out without attacking. So, opponent goes, passes. We find Goblin Guide. Now, the problem here is, yes, we can attack with, or play Eidolon, or play Goblin Guide attack with all 3 creatures, and we have 1 favorable attack and 2 trade with our Eidolons. So opponent would have to, if we played this Goblin Guide, would go to 2. And then literally if we don't win, we're just dead. Most likely because, okay, attack, attack, attack. They have to chump with Bowmasters, but they also chump with this and Hive of the Eye Tyrant. So we lose 2 of our creatures, go to 2, and then if they draw a land, Bowmaster, many different things here, we're just dead. Or actually, Orc Army just kills us. So, no actually good attacks, either with playing this or not. I do think I end up attacking here, which was actually very questionable. And our opponent makes a very curious block that bails us out. I really think if our opponent would have just gone block here, I'm pretty sure we're just dead on the... Maybe they're trying to play around the 3rd Searing Blaze. I'm not really sure what they were playing around there. So we crack, draw another Eidolon. So play the other Eidolon, pass. This is just to keep us from dying to Orc Army. So we did get Orcish Bowmasters off the battlefield, which was nice. But if our opponent had actually blocked smartly, we would probably just have been dead there. But can't play anything. We're actually locked out by our own Eidolons. Opponent plays a Grief, which is admittedly annoying here. Opponent still can't attack this turn. We draw a Sacred Foundry, which literally does nothing. Once again, if we ever draw a Burn Spell here, we could have, you know, double chump attacked basically, but opponent here, I think, is activating Hive. So if the opponent swings out here, I do believe they win, as this has Menace and this has Menace. So once again, I don't know what they're trying to play around here. So they get our Goblin Guide, sure. I go ahead and double chump the Grief. Puts us to 1. And we draw Amped, so I chump attack with Eidolon. And cast Amped, hope to hit a burn spell. We got a little bit lucky. Now there were certainly a couple spots there. The fetch land play. The turn I chump attacked with the Eidolons was a little late. But I don't think there was ever a profitable earlier turn to attack with them. Unless obviously we drew a burn spell and we wanted to be able to cast it. And my opponent also made a couple of playline decisions that if they'd been a bit more aggressive, we probably would have lost that game. So I hope that kind of addresses like some of the thoughts behind each turn, play mistakes, play miscues on both sides of the equation, and kind of maybe gives a better idea of how to play with Amped Raptor. Now, I will admit a couple of things. First off, this was the first time I played with Amped Raptor in Burn. I played with it a little bit in Prowess, and Prowess is a little bit of a different animal. But this was my first attempt at playing with it Burn, and the deck my opponent's playing is a little bit of a different build of Mono Black Scam. I don't know if they have Necro Dominance in it. Plus they're rolling with a Gaia Reach tech, which probably includes Shoulderids in addition to the Griefs. So they might be a little bit more closer to the older versions that not play the Urza Saga, but a little bit of the older versions that's a little bit more of a fair deck rather than a Necro deck. But I digress. Anyways, hope that kind of clears up some of my play lines. Maybe gives some talking points for some people, and gives a little bit of a better discussion than you should have been attacking early, this, that, and the other thing. Maybe you can point out specific turns as I've slowed this game down, where it would have been better to attack, where it would have been, etc. So hopefully this will be a chance for some discourse on, learning for everybody to play Burn a little bit better. But as always, if you like Modern Burn content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you for our next video.